Welcome to another episode of Expected Buffalo, the offering. And we are in the fun cycle of Sabres hockey right now. We've gone through all of the phases of Sabres. I don't want to say sadness. That's not the word. Depression. That's not the word either. It's of I guess maybe just watching this team, being around this team. Low start, get back high, pulled back down a little bit, and then now we're kind of maybe in that middle ground. Um, we got a team here that has won seven or pulled off seven of the last 10 points. They've won two in a row. And now we're looking at opportunity for them to really gain some momentum here as we head into the month of November. And I think that's where I want to start. More from a high-end picture here before we kind of get down to the few things we'll talk about with the team itself. So like I said, 7 out of the last 10 points, 3 1-1. Yeah, 3 1-1s. It's coming back from, no, that's not right. 1, 2. Yeah, okay. So let's try that again. So they are 3 2-1 since coming back from Europe. That's not bad. I mean, if that gets you out of 6 games, I gotta make sure my math is good here. The last few episodes, I've caught myself with my math being horrendous and not even close to right. But in those 6 games, 3 2-1. If you're picking up 6, 7 out of 12, you maybe 8 out of 12, maybe makes you feel a little bit better, but that's still a decent pace to put together and get an idea of what this team can be as we start to stack games together here as we head, like I said, into the month of November. The way this sets up for him now, looking out over the next few games, is a real opportunity here. And I think this is something that we've gone through the last few years where they look like they have an opportunity and then they just never hit on it. They never put themselves in a spot where they can get momentum and get going in the right direction. Points in 5 of 6, points of 7 and 8, points in 9 and 10, or something like that. Some sort of streak going here. And I think the way the schedule lines up for him here, the opportunity is right there. This is the opportunity to establish yourself as a team that is at the very least going to be competitive in the Eastern Conference playoff picture and take advantage of this schedule in front of you and start to put some points on the board. So they have their next 5 games: home Detroit, home Florida, home Islanders, at Detroit, home Ottawa. That is a 5-game window where it's 7 or 8 out of 10, just like you did in this last 5-game stretch. 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 there is absolutely doable and should be the goal. That gets you out of the slow start, and that gets you trending in the right direction. And it really just paints a whole new picture of this season from where we were even 2 weeks ago. And I think, really, if this stretch here doesn't go well, it's really going to give that sense if we go back to this is the same old team again. Look good for a couple games, and then with your opportunity, you go out of these next 5 games, and you get 4 out of 10 points. Just deflating. It'll be frustrating. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to say in October, beginning of November, that we're looking at games where you must get these points, because it's not really the case. But your schedule is so spread out. You're going to be playing mostly with some rest here. You got to take advantage of it. You got to take advantage of these, because it starts to get more condensed as we get into September, January, and February with the 4 Nations Cup. So you really got to start taking advantage of the way the schedule is built out for you early in the season and the breaks that you're going to have in it, because it's just going to get tighter and more competitive, of course, as the season goes along. So I think that's the thing from an overall high-end standpoint before I drill down here that I'm looking for. I'm looking for them to show that this year is different. This isn't going to be like the teams in the past that have struggled to build consistency to stack points. Just the way I always look at it is 5-game windows. Just stack 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 points it could be a tall ask. I get it. And it's not going to be perfect every single one. Maybe it might be a stretch where you get 4 out of 10 and that's the way it goes, but maybe the stretch you get 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. I know it's a crazy world, but that can be possible. But if you just aim to get 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 in your 5-game windows, I mean, that's a playoff pace right there. So we'll see. We'll see what this team is made of. The opportunity is right there for him, and like I said, I'm very intrigued to see if they can show, at least early on, that this isn't going to be the same way that it has been in the past. Now, moving into the roster themselves and the team itself, there are some interesting storylines that we do have to watch as we head into the weekend. On the good side of things, Nicolas Aube-Kubel looks like he's going to return to lineup either on Saturday or on Monday at home against Florida. On the bad side of things, Zach Benson hasn't practiced the last 2 days. That probably, we'll see if he practiced on Friday, but that probably gives indication that he's not going to play at least on Saturday. We'll see about on Monday. But let's say Kubel gets back into the lineup on Saturday against the Red Wings at home. What does that mean? Who is going to come out of the lineup, I think, is something that's really interesting to dive into now. So Kubel obviously is going to go back onto the fourth line. It'll be interesting to see if Ruff wants to reunite the Lafferty, Kubel, Melanstein line that looked good in the preseason. And for the 5 minutes that Kubel did play this season, that line looked pretty good as well with those 3. So that leaves really 2 guys. Well, 3 guys, I think, that are up for debate who comes out. The first one is Yuri Kulik because he's the rookie, so he's going to be there. I wouldn't do that. I think he's playing well. I think he is not an important piece, but I don't want to say that. But I think he's one of the better power play guys right now, and that power play could use any sort of help that it can get. So while I still think he's being an effective player there, he should stay in the lineup because it's 5-on-5 game. I think is better than one of the players we're going to talk about here in a moment. The other guy that could come out who started the season as 13th forward is Peyton Krebs. That's a possibility too, but I think he's played better the last few games in that fourth line. And then maybe he bumps up the lineup who I think realistically, if we're calling it who deserves to come out of this lineup right now and might be the favorite to do so, I think is Jack Quinn. Because it's not going. We are 7 games through this season, and it's not getting better. Honestly, it seems like it's kind of getting worse. I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on exactly what's going on there. If he didn't come back last season at all, I could say, well, it could be the Achilles, getting that going again, getting your skating going and all of that. Totally possible. But he came back from that last season, and the skating, the speed, the acceleration, all that was not an issue where it is this year. But it's not only that, it's the puck decisions. It's just being genuinely ineffective. So many pucks are dying on his stick, which I think is making it difficult for Dylan Cousins to get his game going. It's making it difficult for Kulik to flash more than he's had in smaller chances to do so. I think he already sat once, and it didn't get better. So if you're just going straight by who deserves to come out, it's him. No debate. It is him. Now that gets into, okay, who slides up? You don't want to mess up your third line of Zucker, McLeod, and Greenway. That's going really well right now. It doesn't seem like Ruff is interested in breaking apart Paterka, Tage, or Tuck, so that's going to stay. So that means probably Peyton Krebs moves up. Okay. Cooley, Cousins, Krebs. I don't feel the greatest about that, to be perfectly honest. It's just... I think if Dylan Cousins was playing better, that I might have more confidence in that putting something together. I'm not saying that it can't work because there's a good mix of skill there with a finisher and Kulik, and Cousins has his upside and the things that he does well when he's playing well. And then you have the playmaking of Krebs, and also he's a decent forechecker too, which I think could help that line. But really, I mean, realistically, right now, Krebs is a fourth line player. You're going to take a fourth line player and put him on your second line and hope for more effective play. Now, what Quinn's giving you, maybe you do get more effective play, to be honest. It wouldn't be shocking. It's not going to be a long term thing because Benton's going to be back and he could just jump right in that spot and you're on your way. But I think for the next few games, if it comes to Detroit and Florida, at the very least, that's going to be a concern for me. I get it. You got to do what you got to do, especially the way Quinn's playing. It's not hard to improve upon that, but there's some reservation there for me that it'll look a lot better. At least it'll look much better than what you're currently getting out of that second line. And right now they're surviving without it. I don't know if that's something that can be sustained. I think eventually that third line is going to need to get going. You really cannot rely fully on your first line to carry you, and then Ryan McLeod to shoot 40%. I mean, you got to get other guys in this team going to put the puck in the net, so things can keep going in that direction. Moving, I'm trying to think where I want to go next year. Do I want to go to the Amerks or I want to go back to the Sabres as a team? Let's jump back to the Sabres as a team here. Their overall outlook, where we stand. Because I was thinking about this looking ahead to Saturday. Detroit is on a 3-game winning streak, I'm pretty sure, if they're winning today. And the numbers behind it, though, are pretty insane. I mean, they won a game against the Islanders where they had 10 shots the other night. They won tonight in a game, I think, where they were outshot 20 to 40 something against the Devils. It's all terrible numbers from Detroit, but they're still just finding a way to win games, which, in small pockets, small windows, that happens. That's the way it goes. And I think the Sabres do have a better roster. I think they're a better team than Detroit is. And that's one of the reasons why I think you need to take these next 2 games against them, especially against a division team, and you could say a team that you may be fighting the playoff race with. But then that got me looking at the Sabres numbers, and I was like, I know they were I don't say pretty good, but they were decent going into these last few games against Chicago and Dallas. But they took a little bit of a slide in some areas. Their expected goal share is down to 18th in Evolving Hockey's model at 48%. Their shot share, their Corsi, was top 3 in the league, dropped down to 7th at 53%. Because of their scoring and the improved goaltending from Luukkonen, their goal differential at 5-on-5 has jumped to 13th in the league at 56%. And they are one of the highest scoring teams in the league again at 5-on-5 with a 3.25 goals for per 60. They've maintained keeping, not giving up too many goals at 5-on-5. At 2.55 goals against per 60 is 20th in the league, kind of around where they were last year. But one thing that I don't want to say is concerning, but a little bit bummed out by, and that could just be, the Chicago game, there wasn't a lot of chances generated. Again, we're still in this 7, we're under 10 games where one game can really swing you up or down in these rankings. Can have a significant impact, but their expected goals for per 60 at 5-on-5 is at 2.53, which is 21st in the Twins model. Not where I'm really hoping they would be. I want them to be maybe more realistically in that 10 to 15 range. I think that would give me some confidence about that moving forward. And then their defense, again, same thing, 20th, 2.73 expected goals against. Not great. Again, maybe in that 12 to 15 range, I think is something I would aim for realistically. That could be difficult to ask for, but that's ideally where I would want to see things. But overall, we're a team now that you're maybe at league average in some areas and slightly below in others. Thinking about this team, you could say, well, that is perfectly right where they're probably going to end up, right around that average area. As much as I talk about Detroit, I think not being a good team and having a bad roster and kind of a fake wins and all of this, don't get me wrong, the Sabres are no great shakes themselves. I think they're an average team that could compete for a playoff spot and sneak in. That's not going to put them near the upper echelon in any of these numbers by any means. So I think having realistic, like I said, expectations in that 10 to 15 or the 12 to 15 range in league rankings, I think is a reasonable hope and landing spot for this team, and where I expect them to try to work towards more. And then maybe you have some teams coming up here. I think you can hopefully improve upon your numbers. The Dallas game, they played really well. Some of the numbers there, I think you got score effect a little bit into making Dallas come out higher in expected goals and shot share on that one. So that's understandable. Again, in these small windows, that's going to show through and put you where you are. So all of this to say that I think this really comes full circle into they are who we thought they were a team. They're an average team that has the potential, if things go right, to get on a run, to have some good stretches of hockey. And you hope the good stretches are longer, more consistent than the bad stretches, but you're going to have some bad stretches, you're going to have some bad games. You're going to have some frustrating nights. That's just the way things work around here, and you just have to deal with that. That's how this roster is built. That's the talent level this roster is at. But I do think it's encouraging that we're not seeing anything in here that seems, I guess the word is fake. Like we're seeing with Detroit, who right now, let's see, Detroit is at, like, even their 5-on-5 numbers are just crazy. But the Red Wings are at 1.88 goals for per 60. So that's a team that's living on the power play, which you got to hope your special teams comes when you play against them these next two games. But they're also not giving up a lot. That 2.18 goals against per 60, which has them 10th in the league. They're not generating a lot of offense. They are worst in the league offensively at 2.12 expected goals for per 60. Worst in the league. Their expected goals against, they are 24th in the league at 2.89. So a lot of that, when I see a team that is, winning 3 in a row and they're getting 10 shots on goal in some of those games, really tells you, I think, gives you signs of fakeness, not real, where I don't really think we're seeing that with the Sabres. I think we're kind of seeing some realistic outputs now that we're getting a bigger sample of games, and you just hope to see some slight improvement that bumps you up. Again, I'm not really trying to pick on Detroit here. I think they were just the most prime example in my head of numbers that are, when you're having success and you look at your numbers, like, come on, this is not sustainable. This isn't real. Where I think we probably don't have that with Buffalo. Again, you probably don't love some of the stuff where they're at, but you hope for some improvement, and then, you kind of just stay in that area. And I think if you put up those numbers, that you can be in that playoff conversation when it comes to crunch time in March and April. All right. A couple of things I want to talk about here as we wrap up. Amerks. I put out today first Amerks recap of this season, or kind of just right up on the team. A nice 6-1 dominant win against Cleveland last night. They have a couple games over the weekend coming up here, so we'll watch that. Anton Wahlberg, Victor Neuchev really standing out in the AHL. I really like Noah Austin's game against Cleveland. I think the game before that, too, he looked pretty well. Consta Helenius, I think, has flashed at times. There's been some things, especially defensively. I think he's been caught with the puck on his stick a little bit too much. Thinking he has more time than he actually has, but I've already started to see that improve a little bit. And that's expected. 18-year-old coming over from Europe with a bigger ice, more time. Just has to get used to that, and I think he'll be fine. Defensively, I think there's some issues there with exits, but I think we're particularly terrible. I honestly, when I rolled it all up and put it into the charts and the numbers and spit it all out, I expected the exit numbers to be worse than they actually were, and they were poor as it is, and I expected them to be worse because there was failed exits just all over the place in all of the games that I tracked and watched. It was not good. So you want to see that improve. Komarov and Novikov have been two of the guys that have struggled at the most. Ryan Johnson, what people have mentioned, when the Sabres are struggling about getting him up, can he improve your defense right now? Again, being one of the key guys, the main runners in the Ryan Johnson fan club, there's just still a lot of stuff in his game. I'm not seeing improvement upon his offense and generating stuff and creating from the blue line and making nice plays on the rush. I mean, that's all still there. That's always been there. It's defensively, there's still those things. There's bad decisions. out of position sometimes, turnovers where it doesn't need to be, trying to be too cute with the puck. If he's not going to get out of his game, he's not going to get an opportunity here, and he's not going to get an opportunity anywhere else to play in the league. Those are just things that are non-negotiable with the coaches and just don't work at the pro level. Sometimes just making the good play is the right play. I understand that you're trying to make a play, but you don't have to do it every time you touch the puck. I think he has to learn that, and until he does, he's going to be stuck down in the minors, or he's going to get limited looks in the NHL and not be able to stick because of those issues defensively. There's going to be a lot of stuff in his game that flash and make you think that like he's got it, and he does. He has the talent. There's the ability there just to clean those things up. And I think if he does it, then he can be an effective, 5-6 defenseman on it with the Sabres or with another team, if he is moved or something down the road, let's say. But I think there's some work still to be done there for Ryan Johnson. So anybody maybe having visions of him jumping in if the struggles on defense start to pop up again, I would say that that's probably not likely for you. Michael Hauser has settled things down in goal in Rochester, so that's good. Felix Sandstrom was off to a rough start in the first 2 games, but Hauser has been good. And speaking of that, I think the good news to watch for here in the next week or so, John Gibson is very close to returning in Anaheim. Lucas Dostal has played very well for the Ducks in his absence. But what that means with Gibson's return is James Reimer is then the odd man out there, which would likely land him back on waivers. The Sabres then would have the opportunity to reclaim him, and if no other team in the league puts in a claim on him, then they will be able to send him down to the AHL without having to go on waivers. So that would be an improvement for the Amerks as well. Then you have to deal with what you're going to do with Sandstrom or Hauser, who's going to stay up, who's going to go down to the ECHL. I guess you can carry 3, but I would say you're probably better off sending one down to Jacksonville. Okay, 22 minutes through. I'll end how I started it. It's this next 5-game window. I think is a critical one. This is maybe your first critical 5-game stretch of the season. Again, you're going to be pretty much rested. You're going to play Saturday. You're going to play Monday, and then you're off until Friday. Then you go Friday, Saturday. So stack points. Just it doesn't always have to be pretty either. If it's one of those games, looks like the Blackhawks game, but you end up with 2 points, so be it. They don't ask how, they ask how many at the end of the season. So we're allowed to have some ugly games here. And let's try to keep momentum going. I don't want to come on here next time and talk about a team that's lost 2 in a row where, is 1 point in their last 3 games. Not where I want to be. And kind of be in a similar spot we were for a lot of last season. So thanks for listening, and we will talk again soon. See ya.